Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय।
Jai.
श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय।
Jai.
वृंदावन धाम की जय।
Jai.
नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय।
Jai.
गंगा माई की जय।
Jai.
जमुना माई की जय।
जय
तुलसी देवी की जय।
जय
भक्ति देवी की जय।
जय
समवेता भक्त वृंद की जय।
जय
गौर प्रेमानंदे।
हरि बोल।
All glories to the assembled devotees.
हरे कृष्णा
All glories to the assembled devotees.
हरे कृष्णा
All glories to the assembled devotees.
हरे
Hare
कृष्ण
Krishna.
All glory to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Shami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Dishatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
वासुदेवाय
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
भगवते वासुदेवाय
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
भगवते वासुदेवाय.
Hare Krishna, we're observing the celebration of Govardhan Puja today. It's the anniversary of the festival, worshiping Govardhan Hill. And so I thought we would read these chapters and from Krishna book, summary study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada, in describing the duties of initiated disciples, sometimes he said attend morning and evening classes, and sometimes he said attend congregational reading. So congregational reading is what we're going to do today. And in this, the way we do this, the way I like to do this is that things will come up during the reading, questions, comments, and we won't wait till the end to address them. If it comes up, let's talk about it right then. You can raise your hand. I'll comment also sometimes about things because it'll keep it really on an interactive kind of discussion of this pastime of Govardhan Hill, Lord Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill and the worship of Govardhan Hill. Of course, you know the famous verse in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti. What is it? Tatvata. Chaktva deham punar janma naiti mam eti sorujana. Oh, Lord Krishna explains that if you understand his birth and his activities, tatvata, in truth, then you don't take any more birth. You go back to Godhead. So it's a big deal. So if we can understand even this pastime, it will make us eligible for when we leave this body to go back to Godhead. So we'll start here. I may ask some others to read also, but if you do have a question, raise your hand. I might not see it because I don't see everybody on the screen here. But if you see someone sees a hand raised, then you let me know also. Okay. All right. Chapter 24 of the Krishna book, Worshipping Govardhan Hill. Govardhan means that hill that gives pleasure or sustenance. Go is cow, and Govardhan means sustenance, pleasure, excitement, enlivening to the goats, to the cows. Why? Because it has grass and nice streams, at least at that time. While engaged with the Brahmins, who were too much involved in the performance of Vedic sacrifices, Krishna and Balaram also saw that the cowherd men were preparing a similar sacrifice in order to pacify Indra, the king of heaven, who was responsible for supplying water. So what's a similar sacrifice?
Oh.
The previous chapters were Lord Krishna delivering the wives of the Brahmins. So the Brahmins were performing a Agnihotra Yagya. Yes, and so similar sacrifice was being done here. And an interesting point made by Jiva Goswami is that it is a particular Sanskrit word means at this place. So apparently this episode of Lord Krishna seeing the cowherd men preparing for the similar sacrifice was near the same place where the Brahmins were performing their sacrifice from the last chapter, which was also very close to Govardhan Hill, which is a distance from Vrindavan proper, Gokul, etc. So in anything, there's who, what, when, why, where. So the where is, this particular incident took place where the Brahmins had performed sacrifice and the Brahmins' wives, and then Lord Krishna stayed over there for some time in their little village near Govardhan, and that's where this happened. As stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, a devotee of Krishna has strong and firm faith in the understanding that is, if he is simply engaged in Krishna consciousness and Krishna's transcendental loving service, then he is freed from all other obligations. A pure devotee of Lord Krishna doesn't have to perform any of the ritualistic functions enjoined in the Vedas, nor is he required to worship any demigods. Being a devotee of Lord Krishna, one is understood to have performed all kinds of Vedic rituals and all kinds of worship to the demigods. One does not develop devotional service for Krishna by performing the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies or worshiping the demigods, but it should be understood that one who is fully engaged in the service of the Lord has already fulfilled all Vedic injunctions. And why is that?
Vedaischa sarve ahameva vedyo.
Yes, because all the Vedic injunctions, the conclusion is to worship Krishna, to understand and worship Krishna. Yes. So, in order to stop all such activities by his devotees, Krishna wanted to firmly establish exclusive devotional service during his presence in Vrindavan. So what were those activities that he wanted to stop?
The Vedic rituals, the sacrifices, Vedic sacrifices that the Brahmanas were performing.
Yeah, and also the worship of demigods. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Because he is the omniscient personality of Godhead, Krishna knew that the cowherd men were preparing for the Indra sacrifice. But as a matter of etiquette, he began to inquire with great honor and submission from elder personalities like Maharaj Nanda. So he didn't just walk in and say, "Hey, oh, okay." He out of matter of with honor. he inquired, "Oh, why are you doing this?" Okay, we'll see. Krishna asked his father, "My dear father, what is this arrangement going on for a great sacrifice? What is the result of such a sacrifice, and for whom is it meant? How is it performed? Will you kindly let me know? I am very eager to know this procedure, so please explain to me the purpose of this sacrifice." So in other words, are you just doing this some kind of blind adherence to rituals, or do you really know what's going on? Upon this inquiry, his father, Nanda Maharaj, remained silent, thinking that his young boy would not be able to understand the intricacies of performing the yajna. Krishna, however, persisted. My dear father, for those who are liberal and saintly, there is no secrecy. So as if he was keeping it a secret, right? He's not responding, so he's keeping it. Nanda Maharaj. They do not think anyone to be a friend, an enemy, or a neutral party because they are always open to everyone. And even for those who are not so liberal, nothing should be kept secret from family members and friends, although secrecy may be maintained for persons who are inimical. Therefore, you cannot keep any secrets from me. All persons are engaged in fruitive activities. Some know what these activities are and they know the result, and some execute activities without knowing the purpose or the result. A person who acts with full knowledge gets the full result, and one who acts without knowledge does not get such a perfect result. Therefore, please let me know the purpose of the sacrifice you are going to perform. Is it according to Vedic injunction, or is it simply a popular ceremony? Kindly let me know in detail about the sacrifice. You got it so far, right? Okay. On hearing this inquiry from Krishna, Maharaj Nanda replied, so now he's replying, my dear boy, this ceremonial performance is more or less traditional because rainfall is due to the mercy of King Indra, and the clouds are his representatives. And because water is so important for our living, we must show some gratitude to the controller of this rainfall, Maharaj Indra. Actually, in the Sanskrit, it's Bhagavan Indra, Bhagavan Indra. Because Bhagavan technically should be used as to describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but sometimes it's used to describe a great person, Bhagavan. Sometimes Narad Muni is described also as Bhagavan. We are arranging, therefore, to pacify King Indra. Usually we use the word pacify when someone gets irritated, isn't it? Oh, so Indra. Because he has very kindly sent us clouds to pour down a sufficient quantity of rain for successful agricultural activities. Water is very important. Would you agree? Yeah. Without rainfall, we cannot farm or produce grains, and without grain, we cannot live. Therefore, rain is necessary for successful religious ceremonies, economic development, and ultimately liberation. So we should not give up this traditional ceremonial function. If one gives it up, being influenced by lust, greed, or fear, then it does not look very good for him. So in summary, who can summarize what was Nanda Maharaj's argument?
It is tradition. It has always been done. So we need to do it. We need to do because we need what Indra controls. And so we need to pacify Indra.
Okay. Good. After hearing this, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the presence of his father and all the elder cowherd men of Vrindavan, spoke in such a way as to make the heavenly King Indra very angry. Oh, this is interesting. Where was Indra? Where was Indra at the time?
The
Heavenly planet.
What's that?
He was a heavenly planet.
Yes, he was in his own abode. So how is it that he's going to know? So obviously the demigods have certain powers. They can know things where even though he was on his planet, he could hear, he could understand also what's going on. That's why they're demigods. They have special powers like that. He suggested that they forego the sacrifice. His reasons for discouraging the sacrifice performed to please Indra were twofold. First, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, there is no need to worship the demigods for any material advancement. All results derived from worshiping the demigods are simply temporary. And only those who are less intelligent are interested in temporary results. So unfortunately, it keeps us in the less intelligent category. We're looking for temporary results. But the verse in Bhagavad Gita, Antavantu palam tesham tad bhavati alpamedasham. Alpamedasham, that's less intelligent. Alpa, little bit, medha, intelligence. In contrast, those who perform Sankirtan are called, chanting the holy names are called Sumedhath, very intelligent. It is clearly, excuse me. Second, whatever temporary result one derives from worshiping the demigods is actually granted by the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Mayaiva hitan hitan. Whatever benefit is supposed to be derived from the demigods is actually bestowed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot bestow any benefit upon others. But sometimes the demigods become puffed up by the influence of material nature, thinking themselves all in all. They forget the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. See, in this case, it's Indra, right? And Indra, just a very short time ago, was praying to Lord Krishna in the womb of Devaki. But here he's become, he will see that he'll become, because of his puffed up influence, he forgot all that. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly stated that in this instance, Krishna wanted to make King Indra angry. Krishna's advent was especially meant for the annihilation of the demons and protection of the devotees. King Indra was certainly a devotee, not a demon, but because he was puffed up, Krishna wanted to teach him a lesson. So even King Indra, what to speak of us, becomes puffed up and then we become envious. He first made Indra angry by stopping the Indra Puja, which had been arranged by the cowherd men in Vrindavan. With this purpose in mind, Krishna began to talk as if he were an atheist, supporting the philosophy of karma mimamsa. Advocates of this philosophy do not accept the supreme authority of the personality of Godhead. They put forward the argument that if anyone works nicely, the result is sure to come. Their opinion is that even if there is a God who gives man the result of his fruitive activities, there is no need to worship him because unless man works, he cannot bestow any good result. They say that instead of worshiping a god, demigod, or God, people should just give attention to their own duties. And thus the good result will surely come. Lord Krishna began to speak to his father according to these principles of karma mimamsa philosophy. My dear father, he said, I don't think you need to worship any demigod for the successful performance of your agricultural activities. Every living being is born according to his past karma and leaves this life simply taking the results of his present karma. Everyone is born in different types of or species of life according to his past activities, and he gets his next birth according to the activities of this life. Different grades of material happiness and distress, comforts and disadvantages of life are different results of different kinds of activities from either the past or present life. So how can you relate that to the idea of Indra Puja, Indra Yajna? Who can say? Who can say?
Whether or not they get rain is based on their karma from their previous lives or this life.
Yeah, that's one thing. Yes, yes. And you have your karma. You're going to get whether the rain comes or not. That's up to your previous karma. And also another thing is another point that Lord Krishna makes is which is and actually it's a karma mimamsa philosophy, but it's tends to be along the atheistic line that, well, there are laws of nature, laws of material nature, and they're just going to happen. You just do your duty, you just keep on doing it, and whatever good result will come will come. Don't why worship any god for that? God, in the sense, is dependent or subservient to the laws of material nature. You follow? Karma mimamsa. So in the more recent days, people have kind of twisted this karma mimamsa philosophy into an idea of work is worship. Have you heard this? Work is worship. And there was a famous Swami who popularized that jargon, and he wrote a treatise on it. And it's a little bit nonsensical, but you can read that. But it ultimately it negates the principle that an individual has any influence with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has independence beyond the laws of nature. Svarat, the first aphorism in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is Janmadhyasya yaton vaya ditaratas chartesh abhigya svarat. Lord Krishna is supremely independent. Even he particularly is not subservient or controlled by the laws of nature. He is the enactor of them, and he can adjust them as he wants. So anyway, this was a kind of a certain kind of atheistic philosophy. Are there other times when Lord Krishna, when God spoke atheistic philosophy? For a particular purpose? Those who are listening? No?
What was it as Buddha?
Yes, that's Bhakti Bob, right?
Yes, yes, Prabhu.
Very good. Yes, yes. So as Buddha, because people were misusing the Vedas and using it to in wholesale, using it to justify animal slaughter, Buddha said, give up the Vedas, give up the Vedas. So like that, similar. Yes, thank you. So Maharaj Nanda and other elder members argued that without satisfying, now there's the counter argument, without satisfying the predominating God, one cannot derive any good results simply by material activities. This is actually the fact. For example, it is sometimes found that in spite of first-class medical help and treatment by a first-class physician, a diseased person dies. It is concluded, therefore, that first-class medical treatment or the attempts of a first-class physician are not in themselves the cause for curing a patient. There must be the hand of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, a father and mother's taking care of their children is not the cause of the children's comfort. Sometimes it is found that can we move this up? In spite of all care by the parents? Yes, thank you. The children go bad or succumb to death. Therefore, material causes are not sufficient for results. There must be the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nanda Maharaj therefore advocated that in order to get good results for agricultural activities, they must satisfy Indra, the superintending deity of the rain supply. Lord Krishna nullified this argument, saying that the demigods give results only to persons who have executed their prescribed duties. The demigods cannot give any good result to the persons who have not executed the prescribed duties. Therefore, the demigods are dependent on the execution of duties and are not absolute in awarding good results to anyone. So why should one care about them? So that's the summary of what's following here. My dear father, Lord Krishna said, there is no need to worship the demigod Indra. How old is Krishna at this time? At least in his, he's eternal, but how old was he at this time? What age?
7.
7. Very good. Yes. 1 year before the Rasa dance. Everyone has to achieve the result of his own work. We can actually see that one becomes busy according to the natural tendency of his work. And according to that natural tendency, all living entities, whether human beings or demigods, achieve their respective results. All living entities achieve higher or lower bodies and create enemies, friends, or neutral parties only because of their different kinds of work. One should be careful to discharge duties according to his natural instinct. Different instinct is an interesting word here, and not divert attention to the worship of various demigods. The demigods will be satisfied by proper execution of all duties, so there's no need to worship them. Let us rather perform our prescribed duties very nicely. So what was the reason Lord Krishna wanted to stop this sacrifice? One reason was he wanted to stop his dear devotees from worshiping demigods. Not necessary. So he's stopping it in this way. Actually, one cannot be happy without executing his proper prescribed duty. One who does not, therefore, properly discharge his prescribed duties is compared to an unchaste wife. The proper prescribed duty of the Brahmins is to study of the Vedas. The proper duty of the royal order, the Kshatriyas, is engagement in protecting the citizens. The proper duty of the Vaishya community is agriculture, trade, and the protection of cows. And the proper duty of the Shudras is service to the higher classes, namely the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. We belong to the Vaishya community, and our proper duty is to farm, trade agricultural produce, and protect cows, or to take to banking. Anybody know the Sanskrit verse for that? The Sanskrit? Krishi? Yes, yes. Krishi Goraksha Vanijam, Vaishya Karma Swavamajam. Krishi, agriculture. Goraksha. Goraksha means
protecting cows.
Yeah, Vanijam. Trade. That's where the idea of Vanya comes from. Vanijam. Trade, banking. Yeah. Krishna identified himself with the Vaishya community because Nanda Maharaj was protecting many cows and Krishna was taking care of them. He enumerated 4 kinds of business engagements for the Vaishya community, namely agriculture, trade, protection of cows, and banking. Although the Vaishyas can take any of those occupations, the men of Vrindavan were engaged primarily in the protection of cows. Krishna further explained to his father, this cosmic manifestation is going on under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Can you imagine any current 7-year-old giving this talk? Hardly, right? These 3 modes of nature are the causes of creation, maintenance, and destruction. The cloud is caused by the action of the mode of passion. Therefore, it is the mode of passion which causes the rainfall. And after the rainfall, the living entities derive the results, success in agricultural work. What then has Indra to do with this affair? Even if you do not please Indra, what can he do? We do not derive any special benefit from Indra. Even if he is there, he pours water on the ocean also, where there's no need of water. So he's pouring water on the ocean or on land. It doesn't depend on our worshiping him. As far as we are concerned, we do not need to go to another city or village or foreign country. There are palatial buildings in the cities, but we are satisfied living in the forest of Vrindavan. Our special relationship is with Govardhan Hill and the Vrindavan forest, and nothing more. I therefore request you, my dear father, to begin a sacrifice which will satisfy the local brahmanas and Govardhan Hill. and let us have nothing to do with Indra. These are strong words, right? Very strong words. Okay. After hearing the statement by Krishna, Nanda Maharaj replied, my dear boy, since you are asking, I shall arrange for a separate sacrifice for the local brahmanas and Govardhan Hill. But for the present, let me execute the sacrifice known as Indra Yagya. So do both, right? Do both. Worship the demigods and worship, worship both. Do both things. So this is the proposal. The proposal is, well, we'll do both things. What is Krishna going to do? But Krishna said, my dear father, don't delay. The sacrifice you propose for Govardhan and the local, he's encouraging him. You propose the sacrifice. Okay, yeah. The sacrifice you propose for Govardhan and the local Brahmins will take much time. Better take the arrangement and paraphernalia you have already made for the Indra Yagya and immediately engage them to satisfy Govardhan Hill and the local Brahmins. Maharaj Nanda finally relented. The cowherd man then inquired from Krishna how he wanted the yajna performed, and Krishna gave them the following directions. Okay, so Lord Krishna is giving directions on how to observe Govardhan Puja. Okay. Directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prepare very nice foods of all descriptions from the grain and ghee collected for the yajna. So they had already brought grains and ghee for the yajna, right? Swaha. So take those grains and use those grains and ghee to make wonderful varieties of foodstuff for offering. Prepare rice, dal, then halava, pakora, puri, and all kinds of milk preparations. So this wasn't vegan, such as sweet rice, rabri, sweet balls. Sweet balls is gulab jamun. Sandesh, rasagulla, and laddu. And invite the learned Brahmins who can chant the Vedic hymns and offer oblations to the fire. Some people have commented that, Srila Prabhupada has put these names of various preparations here in the Krishna book, but they're not really accurate because, well, halva comes from Turkey. Have you ever heard this? Have you ever heard this argument? Anyway, Srila Prabhupada knew very well all these things, but just because in current time, it might be more, one preparation might be more popular in Turkey, doesn't mean that it wasn't there in the Vedic times. Just like pizza became very popular in the United States, although it was not well known in Italy before, but then gradually it became popular in Italy, and after it became popular in the United States. So it came from Italy, though. So many things like that. In fact, the historians say that gardens were brought into India by the Mughals, although we find in the Srimad Bhagavatam beautiful descriptions of gardens in Vrindavan and in Dwarka. So anyway, this is an argument that's not supported by, it's based on material conceptions. Sweet rice, rabri. Rabri is also, you might also call it kheer, Bengali kheer, which is cooked down milk, sweetened. Yeah. The Brahmins, okay, yeah. And invite the learned Brahmins who chant the Vedic hymns and offer oblations to the fire. So there is a fire sacrifice also here. And they're chanting the Vedic hymns or chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The Brahmins should be given all kinds of grain in charity. Then decorate all the cows and feed them well. Okay, so these are the different ingredients. After performing this, give money in charity to the Brahmanas. As far as the lower animals are concerned, such as dogs, and the lower grades of people, such as chandalas, or the fifth class of men who are considered untouchable, they also may be given sumptuous prasadam, After nice grasses have been given to the cows, the sacrifice known as Govardhan Puja may immediately begin. This sacrifice will very much satisfy me. So Krishna is saying here, this sacrifice will very much satisfy him. So devotional service means doing things that satisfy Krishna. So very simple. Very simple. What are the different aspects of this? Shall we review? Govardhan Puja, come on.
Preparing nice preparations.
Yes, yes. What else?
Giving in charity to the brahmanas.
Yeah, you got to find some brahmanas running around. We'll find them. It's hard. It's not easy. Yes. And decorate the cows and feed them well, right? Nice grass. And then, some ceremonies, some celebrations in Krishna consciousness, there's fasting. Like on Janmashtami or Gaura Purnima, there's fasting. And
Giving food to lower, like
Even
animals,
Chandalas and
everyone, yes.
untouchables.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
sometimes for some celebrations or observances, festivals, it's a restriction. But some like Ratha Yatra and Govardhan Puja, there's sumptuous distribution of prasadam should be gone. That's part of it. Yeah. In this statement, Lord Krishna practically describes the whole economy of the Vaishya community. In all communities in human society, including the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, Chandalas, etc., and in the animal kingdom, including the cows, dogs, goats, etc., everyone has a part to play. So even the dogs here, it says, right? Each is to work in cooperation for the total benefit of all society. So this is ecology, which includes not only animate objects, but also inanimate objects like hills and land. The Vaishya community is specifically responsible for the economic improvement of society by producing grains, by giving protection to the cows, by transporting food when needed, and by banking and finance. From this statement, we learn also that although the cats and dogs, which have now become so important, are not to be neglected, cow protection is actually more important than protection of cats and dogs. Another hint we get from the statement is that the chandalas, or the untouchables, are also not to be neglected by the higher classes and should be given necessary protection. Everyone is important, but some are directly responsible for the advancement of human society, and some are only indirectly responsible. However, when Krishna consciousness is there, then everyone's total benefit is taken care of. As you water the root of the tree, all the leaves, branches, root, everything becomes satisfied. The sacrifice, known as Govardhan Puja, is observed in the Krishna consciousness movement. Lord Chaitanya has recommended that since Krishna is worshipable, so his land, Vrindavan and Govardhan Hill, is also worshipable. To confirm this statement, Lord Krishna said that Govardhan Puja is as good as worship of him. From that day, Govardhan Puja has been going on and is known as Annakut. What does that mean, Annakut? What does that mean, Annakut?
feeding people.
Hill of food.
Mountain of Anna. Yeah. In all the temples of Vrindavan or outside of Vrindavan, huge quantities of food are prepared in the ceremony and are very sumptuously distributed to the general population. Sometimes the food is thrown to the crowds and they enjoy collecting it off the ground. From this, we can understand that prasadam offered to Krishna never becomes polluted or contaminated, even if it is thrown on the ground. The people therefore collect and eat it with great satisfaction. Actually, so in some temples, they put, they put large mounds of food for offerings on the actual altar on this day. We do a small little bit. There's some temples, they take big mountains of bhog and put it for offering on that altar in big containers. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, thus advised the cowherd men to stop the Indra Jagya and begin the Govardhan Puja in order to chastise Indra, who was very much puffed up at being the supreme controller of the heavenly planets. The honest and simple cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, accepted Krishna's proposal and executed in detail everything he advised. They performed Govardhan worship and circumambulation of the hill. Following the, and this is in parentheses, following the inauguration of Govardhan Puja, people in Vrindavan still dress nicely and assemble near Govardhan Hill to offer worship and circumambulate the hill, leading their cows all around. Maybe some of you have done that. Circumambulate Govardhan Hill. It takes about 6 hours. According to the instruction of Lord Krishna, Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men called in learned brahmanas and began to worship Govardhan Hill by chanting Vedic hymns and offering prasadam. So they just didn't prepare but they offered the prasadam. The inhabitants of Vrindavan assembled together, decorated their cows, gave them grass, and keeping the cows in front, they began to circumambulate Govardhan Hill. The gopis dressed themselves very luxuriantly. That dressing of luxuriantly wasn't for their own satisfaction, but for the satisfaction of Krishna and Govardhan Hill, and sat in bull-driven carts, chanting the glories of Krishna's pastimes, chanting Satatam Kirtiyanto Mam. The brahmanas assembled there to act as priests for Govardhan Puja, offered their blessings to the cowherd men and their wives, and the gopis. When everything was complete, now look at this. This is kind of unusual. When everything was complete, Krishna assumed a great transcendental form and declared to the inhabitants of Vrindavan that he was himself Govardhan Hill, in order to convince the devotees that Govardhan Hill and Krishna himself are identical. Then Krishna began to eat all the food offered there. The identity of Krishna and Govardhan Hill is still honored, and great devotees take rocks from Govardhan Hill and worship them exactly as they worship the deity of Krishna in the temple. So this is so there was Govardhan Hill, there was Krishna, and was there any Mahaprema Vesha has his stand up? I see that. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Oh,
Please
you're in San Francisco, I see.
Am I?
Oh, you have the Golden Gate Bridge behind you.
I don't know why that's there.
Okay.
Is there any further explanation by Srila Prabhupada of this great form of Krishna?
That's a good question. I'm not aware of any. I don't see in none of the art that's been produced by the ISKCON artists do I find a picture, a painting of this form, great transcendental form. It's only described here in this small part. There might be in other literatures, but I'm not aware of it, exactly what that form looked like.
Okay.
Good question.
That's all. Thank you.
So you have Govardhan Hill, and you have Krishna, and you have this other form that's a Govardhan Hill personified. So that's a area of research that we can look into. The followers of the Krishna consciousness movement may therefore collect small rocks or pebbles from Govardhan Hill and worship them at home, because this worship is as good as deity worship. The form of Krishna who began to eat the offerings was separately constituted. So there, the form of Krishna who began to eat the offerings was separately constituted. Yes. And Krishna himself, along with the other inhabitants of Vrindavan, offered obeisances to the deity as well as Govardhan Hill. That deity must be that separately constituted form. And offering obeisances to the huge form of Krishna and Govardhan Hill. See, two things. Krishna, this huge form of Krishna and Govardhan Hill. Krishna declared, just see how Govardhan Hill has assumed this huge form. So it's very huge. And is favoring us by accepting all offerings. Krishna also declared at that meeting, one who neglects the worship of Govardhan Puja, as I am personally conducting it, will not be happy. There are many snakes on Govardhan Hill, and persons neglecting the prescribed duty of Govardhan Puja will be bitten by the snakes and killed. In order to assure the good fortune of the cows and themselves, all the people of Vrindavan near Govardhan must worship the hill as prescribed by me. Thus, performing the Govardhan Puja sacrifice, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan followed the instructions of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, and afterwards they returned to their respective homes. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 24th chapter of Krishna worshipping Govardhan Hill. Hare Krishna. Do you have questions, comments, observations, corrections? No? Should we continue or not? Go ahead, Mother Golokananda Priya.
Yeah. Why doesn't worship Govardhan Hill be beaten by snake? I'm thinking, like, how does it apply to all of us all over the world? You know.
Yeah, it means we have to worship Govardhan Puja also. We have to observe it. So you're observing it right now by hearing about it. That's one kind of worship. But also preparing nice foodstuffs, offering it to Krishna, Govardhan Hill.
I'm just thinking a devotee who doesn't know about Govardhan Hill, and even they know and they don't think it is important to worship it. Worship Govardhan Hill.
Yes.
So what happened to these devotees?
Well, it says here, Krishna's, well, you know, all people of Vrindavan near Govardhan Hill must worship the hill as prescribed by me. So you could take it that, oh, it's only for the people nearby Vrindavan. But in general, Lord Krishna wanted this celebration and festival to be celebrated by everybody. He's God, not just of India, or not just of, the people in, the East, but he's God of everybody. So he's requesting and saying that, yes, everybody should observe this Govardhan Hill. And, bitten by snakes and killed. There's all kinds of different kinds of snakes. It can be done by, actual snake or other kinds of subtle snake-like beings can be there. Mahapramavesh.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, one more question.
No, sorry. Questions are good.
Was the worship of Govardhan Shilas prominent when Prabhupada was here, or is that something that started to kind of, pick up the pace more after he left? Just because I know it's only mentioned, he mentions it that people worship Shilas from the hill there, but I don't remember there being many Govardhan Shilas mentioned in temples and stuff like that. So I just was thinking, is that something that happened, became popularized later in the movement, or did he have any Shilas at any locations?
During Srila Prabhupada's time, as far as I know, there's a purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita where Srila Prabhupada describes that traditionally every Brahmana in a Brahmin's home had Shalagram Shila or some kind of Govardhan Shila, Shalagram Shila. But he said that as the Krishna consciousness movement the people become more fixed in Brahminical behavior, he'll introduce that. So that purport was written about 74, 75. So near the end of Srila Prabhupada's stay, manifest presence, some few Shilas were introduced.
Okay.
Not many. Then afterwards, it became more more a part of the regular worship in some temples. Unfortunately, because some people, some are not steady. Even though the worship may have been started, it was became neglected later. The differences is that Gornitai worship is very, very merciful, Lord Gornitai. He doesn't take offense. Jagannath, he doesn't take, he only takes 20% offenses. Lord Krishna he'll forgive only 20%. He forgives 20%. Jagannath forgives 80%. And Shalagram Shila doesn't forgive offenses. Very strict. So you got to be really careful. So there are some worships of some temples that have, but it's not widely spread as far as I know. Mother Sangita has a Govardhan Shila. Mother Madhavi Gaurangi.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. So I joined the class little late, so I'm not sure that if it has already been discussed, the Rupa or the Swarup of Govardhan Hill. So in so many classes, or I think in one of the literatures, I read that Govardhan Hill is a devotee of Lord Krishna and was present in Golok Vrindavan in the spiritual world when Srimati Radharani wanted to descend. She wanted to descend along with all the paraphernalia which is originally there in Goloka Vrindavan. So this hill was also present there. One, and the other thing is the story of that Pulatsya Muni who took Govardhan Hill, and Govardhan Hill by his own desire just got situated in Rajadham. So here we can see that Govardhan Hill is a devotee of the Lord. And when we read the narration we just did, and in other chapter, in the future chapter, in the later chapters, I mean, there will be the description that the features when Govardhan Hill comes personally to give darshan, the features of Govardhan Hill will be similar to Krishna. So, and Krishna is also mentioning that worshipping Govardhan Hill is same as worshipping Krishna himself. So is it, if you can put some light on it, Prabhu, that Govardhan Hill is a devotee as well as at the same time he is as good as Krishna, as mentioned by Lord Krishna himself. So that will be great.
So yeah, Govardhan Hill is described as the best devotee of Krishna, in fact. But he's also here Krishna. So just like we have so many like Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, Advaita Prabhu. They're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they're also devotees. They're devotees. The description you talked about, where Govardhan Hill is in Goloka Vrindavan, that comes from the Garga Samhita, which is a
Yes.
treatise by Garga Muni.
Yes.
A devotee named has translated that, but Srila Prabhupada never mentioned that particular item, but that's where it's from. And there's a couple of stories about the couple of stories about how the Govardhan Hill came to Vrindavan to stay there, and those are narrated after. But Srila Prabhupada, as far as I know, never narrated those stories. But not that they're not necessarily correct. But okay, thank you, Mother Shubharati. But I didn't mention them here just because they're not mentioned in Srila Prabhupada's literatures.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So the Govardhan Hill is both Krishna and a great devotee of Krishna, because he's serving Krishna in so many different ways, and serving Krishna's devotees in so many different ways. The cows, the cowherd boys, etc. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu.
All right. We finished the Govardhan Puja. Then I guess the other things that happen. There's this devastating rainfall in Vrindavan. That's going to happen pretty soon after this, after the puja is over. So then there's description of the puja will go on a little bit here. And then Indra retaliates. Lord Indra retaliates for the residents of Vrindavan neglecting his worship. And so what does he do? He sends clouds, his representatives, and he comes himself actually to inundate Vrindavan with floods. And in floods, people die. So what was Indra's intention, sending these clouds? What was his intention?
As a resident of Vrindavan, a lesson for not worshipping him.
Just teaching him a lesson by how?
He wanted to kill them.
By
Yeah.
killing
He
them.
wanted to kill them.
Yeah.
He wanted to kill them.
Yes.
Think about it. Think about it. Indra, the demigod, he wanted to kill them, sending them floods. And certainly hurricanes, floods like that, they're deadly. They're deadly. Which is pretty, but he's a devotee. He's a devotee. So from this we can understand that even in devotional communities, things can get a little tough, right? Differences. So there's a difference about how to worship in Indra. He retaliates not only by trying to kill the devotees of Krishna, but also to Krishna himself. Very, very tough. Brahma kidnapped the cowherd boys. He kidnapped them, which is another capital offense. It's a felony. So attempted murder is also felony here. But Krishna is kindly. He not only shows, there's example and there's precept. Precept means, we talk the philosophy. An example means you demonstrate the philosophy. So in this case, Lord Krishna is demonstrating that he's protecting his devotees. They don't have to worship anybody else. He's establishing that. And he's demonstrating that he will personally arrange for his devotees to be protected, even from the onslaughts of a very, very powerful demigod like Indra, who's, in the Greek areas, Zeus. He'll protect them. So he's giving practically demonstrations of this. Nice. And he also, afterwards, forgives Indra when Indra comes and surrenders to him and offers prayers. So these are very interesting points as well. So even such a grave offense that he committed to Lord Krishna and Krishna's devotees, Indra in his repentance and prayers was excused by Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna. Any other questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mother Mukti Datri.
Yes, Prabhu. I just wondering, like you said, like Gornitai doesn't take offense.
Yes.
And you said like something 20% Radha Krishna is take like what is for?
She forgives. They forgive 20% of the offenses. You got to be very, very careful.
Okay, and Jagannath forgives 80%.
Yes.
Okay. How about the Gopal deity?
I don't know. I don't know if there's any specific difference. Those things. Little Gopal, Laddu Gopal deity. I don't know. I just heard these things. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Lord Nrsingadev. I don't know. But specifically, Gaur Nitai worship is Lord Chaitanya is the most merciful. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. More merciful than Krishna himself, actually. So generally, Srila Prabhupada would like us to. We start with the Gaur Nitai worship also. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna Prabhu.